So in the first module of this lecture, we'll talk just about some prerequisites on getting scripting to work with PCI-Lab. First and foremost, for every command in the graphical user interface, there is a scriptable function. So you can bet on that. And to get some documentation on a particular function, you can use the help menu. And of course, you can also use this doc command and the help command. And most of these functions, almost all of them, have a summary of what the function does. It has a formal listing of the input and output arguments and some examples for that and default values. Every function has basically default values for everything, you could say, except for the data. And there's almost always code examples in there as well. So almost every function has code samples, multiple ones, for how to run this in the script. And some have paper references and so on. So fundamentally, when you're calling a function, such as PCI train down here, most of them can take the function arguments just in the order in which they show up in the documentation, like my data, my approach, and then you can go on with other things. And some of the functions, in particular the high-level functions and the user-written plugins, can also be called with name-value pairs instead. So you can put in the data, then the string data, my data, string approach, my approach. If you're in doubt about which syntax to use or whatever, it is almost always a better idea to use name-value pairs if the function supports it, because then you cannot accidentally mix things up. And also maybe it can get very, very, very messy if you have many parameters in a function, of course. So always try to do it that way. And also never try to mix both styles. So don't try to pass in some stuff as positional arguments and the rest is name-value pairs. It's basically either or. Except if the function wants to be called that way, in which case it would be documented. A function might get x and y and then some name-value pairs. That might be permitted, so to speak. When you want to load data, that is basically usually a one-liner, like IO load set and then your path name, and that loads your data. So that is just the basics of that. Works across any format that is supported by EEG-Lab. And that's just all the prerequisites that we need. So ends this little module.